I feel the Spirit moving in me. I feel the Spirit moving in me.
Aloha, welcome to Unity Church of Maui Sunday service. We've got an amazing service today, and I'd like to thank you too. We've got some incredible music, and Emily Thiroux is our guest speaker today. So welcome, and here we go. Yeah, try me. Today we welcome Emily Threatt as our guest speaker. Emily has experienced a lot of death in her life. She's lost 2 husbands, her parents, her sisters, and many more loved ones. And she's from this grief. She's written a book about helping people through their grief. And so today's talk, she's going to give us some ideas of how we can be with the grief that we have through the holidays. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Emily Threatt.
Let's go back to 2017 in August together. And Ron, my husband, Reverend Ron, and I had invited all of our dear friends from the mainland and the family and anybody who wanted to come and spend that week with us. And we had a wonderful week. We talked story, we sang, did lots of barbecue. Even though we were vegetarian, Ron wanted barbecue, so that's what we did. And we just had a great week together. We helped Ron with FaceTime so that he could speak to anybody he wanted to face during that week, and it was really quite wonderful. Then, I can do this, that Friday evening, we all gathered around his bed and said goodbye. We all knew what was coming, but the reality of it is kind of more difficult than you'd think. And at that moment, I fell into this vortex of grief that was, I was just felt surrounded by nothingness, and just couldn't concentrate, couldn't really talk to people, couldn't focus. It was a hard time for a couple of weeks. And as I was coming out of that, I said, I can't do this like this. My husband before Ron had also died, and I was in a bad place for a long time, and I didn't want to do that again. So I thought, okay, what do I need to do? How can I change my life? Or really, what is my purpose in life at this point? Because up until now, my purpose had been taking care of Ron. The 2 years that we had lived together on Maui up until this point, we were together all the time, and he was sick most of the time, and we just did whatever needed to be done, spent most of our time together, and it was really quite wonderful. But now he wasn't here, and I needed to know what I needed to do. So I'm a writer. I've been a writer for many years. I've taught writing at the university level for a very long time. And I knew somehow that my words, that my writing was going to be the key to my journey. Now, we all grieve. There's lots of different kinds of losses. It's not just the loss of a loved one. Right now with COVID going on, it can be the loss of a home, the loss of a job, the loss of friends and family that have to move someplace else. There's so many things that we're dealing with right now that are loss. And I discovered through my journey that when I'd focus on positivity and joy, I could handle it. And it made each day better as I did that. So it got to be time for the holidays, and I thought, I have to figure out what I'm going to do now to move forward, that I'm going to have a good life, and my holidays are going to be okay. I'm not going to just sit around and cry. So what I did was start writing. I made a list, a long list of different things. Well, I could do this, and I could do this, and I could do this. And I'm not going to give the whole list to you, but I did choose 7 of those things that are on my list that really helped me a lot, and I'm hoping that they're really going to help you too. So the very first thing on my list is to smile. Now, I know you're going, I just lost my husband. What do I have to smile about? Well, I have a lot of things to smile about, actually. I'm here, life is good. In this moment, everything is absolutely perfect. And so I should smile. And when Ron and I first got together, he always used to point out to me that I didn't smile enough. He would just look at me sometimes, and I thought, oh, he wants me to smile, you know. So I really kind of had to practice it. So I thought, well, would be a good time to try that again now and do that now. So just to practice smiling, just go in front of a mirror and look at yourself, and then smile at your beautiful self. You are beautiful inside and out, and just let that radiate out of your smile. And practice a little bit. I know I like how I look with some smiles better than other smiles, and find the one that really suits you so that you can smile in a way that it's coming from your heart and it just radiates from you. And then when you find that smile, remember it. And if later on in the day you're walking around and you pass a mirror, look at yourself and see if you're smiling. And if you're not, smile, and smile that really good smile. Then after that, I'll give you a little challenge. I want you to smile 5 times an hour for the rest of that day. Consciously keep track of it and know that you're smiling. I don't care whether anybody's there with you or not, whether you're smiling at the beautiful view out your window or smiling at your dog or whatever you're smiling at, it's okay. Just smile, or go back to that mirror and smile at yourself again. But do it 5 times an hour. That just thinking about that, it might seem like a whole lot, but it really isn't. And what happens by doing it on a regular basis is it creates kind of a habit for you. So that then after this first day of doing that, the next day you can go, oh, I need to remember to smile. And you just automatically smile, it just comes out. And the more you smile, the better you're gonna feel. And it's a really great way to help you get through the holidays, because the holidays are a time that you can kind of drop over the edge. And this will help keep you from going all the way down. It's really good. So make sure that this is a habit that's going to bring you joy through the holiday season and then beyond. It's a great thing to establish then. It's a gift you can give yourself for the holidays that you can keep on giving yourself afterwards. Okay, number 2 is write a note. Now, I've discovered that when I do something to cheer other people up, that it cheers me up too. So it helps me connect to people so that I don't feel so alone. So write whatever kind of note you want to write. It can be just, I'm thinking of you note, or I remember this time when we did this wonderful thing, or I'm so grateful to you for something that you've done in my life. Anything like that. Just write it down. People aren't used to getting mail. I know I was just shocked about 2 weeks ago. My step-granddaughter, who has never written me anything ever, not a birthday card, nothing. She said she was sitting, I know when it was, because it was election day. And she was sitting and watching the election returns and didn't want to focus on that. So she thought she'd just write me a letter. And she wrote me the most beautiful letter, long letter, telling me things that we'd never talked about before, because we haven't really in her life talked that much, and it was really quite beautiful. And it felt so good to read this letter. So of course I immediately wrote her back, and we've actually become kind of pen pals, and right now that's a wonderful thing to have when we're kind of out of touch with as many people as we have been before our need to stay safe during this time. So when you think of something to write, I thought of what I did with my writing about 8 months after Ron transitioned. A dear friend of his died suddenly, and this friend was a lot younger than Ron, and he was a family friend. He and his wife and their kids were friends of ours, and he just died. And all I could think about was his wife, and I thought, she's not going to be prepared for this even a little bit. What can I do to help right now? Well, she's in California and I'm here. Thought I could write her a letter, but the mail between here and there, who knew when she'd get it? I could send her an email, but who knew when she'd get on her computer to read under the circumstances? And so I wrote it anyway, and I sent it to a mutual friend that lived just a couple blocks away from her and said, could you please print this off and take this to Lori right now, because she needs this right now, and she did. And Lori let me know later that the advice that I gave her in that letter was invaluable to her, that she had no idea what she needed to be concerned about and things that she didn't need to be concerned about at that time. And I tried to write all those things in that letter. And after she told me how much it meant to her, I thought, I can do more than that. So I decided to send her a note every week for 52 weeks for the first year. And I sat down, and within about a day, I'd written down 52 different things to tell her over that time period. So I made up 52 cards with different pictures that I've taken of Maui, all the beauty here, and then the notes inside. And since then, whenever anybody close to me passes, I've got these notes that I can send on a regular basis. And some of the people I don't hear from at all, but most of them at some point just tell me that it made all the difference in the world to them, that they anticipated getting these little notes every week, and that it helped them so much. So as a writer, I realized that 52 notes was an outline and I could make a book out of it. So that was another thing that I did to help me deal with my grief, was write my book. And I'm really pleased with it, but it all came from a sense of compassion and wanting to do something in writing that first note. So write a note. You may not ever hear from the person, and that doesn't matter. The person will get the note, and the note will have an impact on them. So that's a really good thing to do. Okay, number 3 is sing. That might sound kind of funny, but I always think about holidays and music at the same time, because everybody knows words to holiday songs like you don't know other songs at all, because you've heard them every year for probably your whole lifetime. So singing just feels good, and it's a good thing to do, and it's a good thing to do for yourself, and it's a good thing to do for other people. Our first Christmas here on the island in November, Ron had a stint in the hospital, and the beginning of December, and we weren't sure he was going to see Christmas that year. So when he came home from the hospital, one of our friends, unbeknownst to Ron, had put together a little group of our friends to come and Christmas carol at our house. And Ron was so touched when he heard those special friends singing outside. But I knew they were coming, so I had fresh Christmas cookies made for them and hot chocolate, and they came in and we sang a lot more, and it just felt so good. And I remembered that after Ron was gone that first Christmas, and I just started singing the songs. Now, there wasn't anybody around to sing them to or to listen to at that point, but I'd turn on music from Pandora or YouTube or something and just sing, because it felt good. I remembered how when I was growing up and I was in choir, how good it felt after choir rehearsal, or how good it felt after I was rehearsing for a musical that I'd be in, that I felt refreshed. I felt just kind of a joy all over. It just felt so good to sing. And I thought, if singing made me feel that good then, it can do that now. So I did that. And I've got to admit, I do it throughout the rest of the year too, like the songs on the radio or music that I put on at home. I'll just sing right along because I know it's going to feel good. So singing is a really good thing to do, to just sing your heart out. And you may shed a tear. Some songs will do that to you. But you may not. You may just be happy and feel really good. So that's a really good thing to do. Number 4 is a holiday card. Now, when was the last time you got a Christmas card? Who does that anymore? I don't know very many people do, but I do. And when I get a holiday card, I cherish it. I cherish every one of them that I get. And I send out quite a few every year, and I get a few back, but it's really special to get those. The first year when Ron had gone, we had always written our Christmas cards together, And we'd always write a little note that was something of inspiration, not just a litany of what we'd done that year, but tried to be inspirational. And I thought, what could I do to be inspirational this time? So I designed my own cards, and Costco printed them for me. It's a real inexpensive way to go. But inside the card, I had a picture of Ron and I together. And I used the card as an expression of gratitude to everybody who'd been with us on this journey. And it was a really good thing for me to do. It felt really good to do it. But the people that got it, I heard from people that I hadn't really heard from that much since he died, because a lot of people don't know how to speak to people who are recently bereaved. I don't know whether they're concerned that the grief is going to rub off on them, or it's going to make them cry, or that they're going to say the wrong thing, or whatever it is. But writing this piece of gratitude to them kind of opened a door that they didn't feel like they had before. And so I started hearing from people, not cards necessarily, but I heard more from people, and got to have nice conversations. And I felt like I just flowed back into friendships that I'd had before, that we had kind of drifted apart from because of Ron being sick for as long as he was. So it's a really good thing to do. The next thing, number 5, is to give an unexpected gift to somebody. Have you ever gotten an unexpected gift, something just out of the blue that you hadn't thought of or didn't anticipate at all? I had one when we first moved here. I joined an exercise class, dance exercise class that was one evening a week. And we had a friend that was happy to come over and sit with Ron that evening so that I could go to the class. And I really enjoyed it. It was a great thing to get out and do something active and make my body feel good. And then Ron had to be in the hospital and I missed a class. Well, the next week when I came back to class, they had this giant basket full of stuff for Ron. And they'd never met him, but they wanted to do something for him to help him feel better. And they had cookies and soup and all kinds of other things, books to read, lots of different things in this great big basket. And it was so entirely unexpected, and it was such a wonderful gift. And I think probably most of the stuff in the basket was stuff they just took off the shelves of things that they had at home, and that didn't matter. They didn't have to spend a lot of money on it. It was the effort and the thought and the consideration of that gift that was magical for us. I've still got the basket. I really like that. So I have tried to do things too for people that are unexpected gifts, and that makes me feel good. I'm sure it helps them too, but it's a mutual feeling good that's really great. I've done things like a dear friend of mine, sister was dying of cancer, young woman, and he said, could you send her a note? Well, I just started sending her notes. I made notes that were kind of like the grief cards that I had done before, but they were just positive, happy cards with pretty pictures from Hawaii, and didn't cost me a thing, a stamp, because I just used things that I had at home to make them, but they meant the world to her. She even had some of them framed to put on her wall. And I was so glad that I could do that little thing for her. And other gifts can be taking someone a casserole that just out of the blue. Sometimes I'll make a casserole that's big enough for 2 families, so I just cook it in 2 dishes, and then my neighbor gets an unexpected gift of dinner for that night. And it's become kind of a, I don't know what I want to say, habit or tradition in our neighborhood to do that now, that if you've got too much, you just share. And it's really a wonderful thing to do. So there's lots of unexpected gifts that you can do that don't take a lot of time or don't take a lot of money, but they're very thoughtful, and people really appreciate it. The next number on my list is number 6, and it's gratitude. Now, I had a friend that told me after Jacques died that I needed to make a list of things that I was grateful for. And I thought, yeah, right, my husband died. What do I have to be grateful for? But it made me think. And so I thought, well, I'm going to try. And so I started writing down things that I was grateful for. And the more I wrote, the more I wanted to write. And I found that I was I'd be in line at the bank and pulling a receipt out of my purse that I could write something on the back of because I didn't want to forget it. And I finally just bought myself a gratitude journal and made sure that every morning one of the very first things I do is to write down at least 3 things that I'm grateful for. And they change all the time. I don't have to search or try to figure out what I'm grateful for. They're always right there. And starting your day that way, knowing that we really are in a beautiful place with a beautiful life, and that all we have is this moment, and that moment is just perfect and glorious, and we can appreciate that. So the gratitude list just helped me immeasurably to be able to appreciate what I already have and notice what I don't need to worry about, which is another part of finding joy, is not focusing on that stuff that really doesn't matter. And you can release that and let it go. It really helps. And number 7, the last suggestion on my list, is kindness. This is a practice that I know can change your life. When I was teaching in Bakersfield, Professor Chuck Wall at Bakersfield College started this assignment for his class. It was a human relations business course. And he gave them the assignment of going out and doing one random act of kindness and then writing about it, submitting the writing for the assignment, and tell the effect that it had on the person you did the act for and the effect that it had on you. And he got such wonderful results that he started making a big deal about it. And at that time, he actually went on national TV on those morning talk shows because it was like viral. Before things go viral now, but back in those days, they didn't go viral so fast, but this one did. And they even made bumper stickers that said, "Today I will commit one random act of senseless kindness. Will you?" And you saw those all over the country. It wasn't just in Bakersfield, it was all over. And I was teaching writing at that time, so I decided I would give that same assignment too. And my students were going, "Oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to be kind." Well, that started really good conversations of the different things that you could do to be kind. It didn't have to be to spend a lot of time or give a lot of money or that sort of thing. It could be just simple everyday things. And one example for me was a friend had come to my house, and I noticed quite a while after she left her cell phone there. And I knew that she would panic when she didn't have her cell phone because she was going to several places that day and probably wouldn't have realized where she left it. And she couldn't call anybody to find out if that was where they were. So I just got in the car and drove the cell phone to her house, didn't even think about it. And I thought afterwards, well, that was my random act of kindness for the day. It wasn't something that I anticipated. It wasn't something I worked on. It was just the kind thing to do. And there's so many different things that you can do like that. One thing I did with my birthday, I don't remember which year, last year or the year before, when it was my birthday and there wasn't really anybody around and we weren't really going to do anything, and I thought I want to do something for me. And I was looking at Facebook and I thought I'm just going to do one of those little Facebook fundraisers. And I knew about Nakiki o Amalia here on Maui, which is a nonprofit organization that provides counseling for children who are grieving. Usually when you think of grief, you think of adults. You don't think of the little ones that are left behind. And it can be really, really hard if they lose a mom or dad or sister or brother or grandparent. It affects their lives so deeply that they could really use some support. And Brooke Brown founded this organization on the island after her daughter, Amalia, I think it was about 2 years after her daughter gave birth, she died of breast cancer. And Brooke was a counselor. She was a retired counselor, and she thought, what can I do to honor my daughter and to help my grandson? So she founded this organization. So I thought, I'm just going to do a request for money for that. So I decided I'd ask for $500, and I seeded it with money myself because I thought it was good for me to give to them too. And I made over $600 for them. And it took me 3 or 4 minutes to put it online. And all that good came back from that one little thing. So be creative. Just think about what is something kind, what would make somebody smile, what would support somebody, what would make them happy, what would bring them joy. And you'll probably find lots of different things that you can do. Okay, now let's pull this all together and take the first steps toward making the holidays manageable. And I want you to do this little exercise with me. It's just breathing, because focusing on your breath can really help. If you start feeling the holidays spinning, if you start feeling something out of control, if you just need some comfort, taking a breath and consciously breathing can make a huge difference. So we'll do that right now. First, take a slow breath in through your nose for a count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold that breath for a count of 3, 2, 1. And then slowly let it go out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And just take a sigh after that. Now, doesn't that just feel good? This can just kind of bring you back to center. So if anything starts to bother you, if you start to be sad, if you start to feel frazzled, if you're annoyed, whatever it is, consciously focus on your breath. Add this into your meditation practice if you're not already doing it, or if you're not meditating, even doing this kind of breathing can really help get you centered, get you focused, and really help your day. In Hawaii, the word aloha stands for the breath of life. And the traditional Hawaiian greeting is to come up and put your forehead against someone's forehead and your nose against their nose, and to breathe that breath of life. But aloha also means love. So together you're breathing that breath of love. I remember the first time I witnessed this, and it was so moving. I was sitting in a waiting room of a tire shop, and these two men that were obvious workers with work clothes on and that sort of thing, one of them was sitting down, the other one came in, and he just walked over and did that. They both held each other behind the neck and did that, and it just blew me away. It was so powerful, such a beautiful act. So equate breathing with love. And consciously breathe and focus on that love. I'd like to leave you with an affirmation that you can say every day that will help with all of this, with keeping things centered, keeping things focused on love and the right things. And I'd like you to listen, or I'll say it and you can listen, and then we can say it together. I consciously love and live every moment of my life. I consciously love and live every moment of my life. Say that every day. It'll really help. And I'd like to close with a little prayer. I invite you to join me. I am so grateful for love, for all the love that I give and receive in my life, for all the love that is apparent throughout the world, for all the love that we can focus on to bring joy deeply into our lives. I'm grateful to know that everything is all part of one big whole that's quite wonderful. And I'm also grateful to know that there's only one place that we can live, and that's in this moment. We can't live in yesterday or tomorrow or a minute before or a minute after. And when we focus on that moment, all is well. In this moment, all is always well. We say this knowing that it is true, and so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Emily, for your inspiration and your beautiful words today. So I invite you at this time to prepare your love offerings and your contributions to Unity Church of Maui, and to perhaps think about how Emily's message today can help you in your life to gain love and strength in times of grief. And as you do that, I invite you to contribute to Unity Church of Maui so that we can continue this work of spiritual enrichment that we're doing. So I invite you to think about what you'd like to give to us today, or to hold it, and let's affirm and pray together our prayer for prosperity, which begins, through a grateful, giving heart, my mind and life overflow with the abundance of God's all-providing, infinite supply. And so it is. Thank you for your gifts, and you can send a check to Unity Church of Maui at 483 South High Street in Wailuku. And you can also go to our website at www.unityonmaui.org and safely donate to us there. So thank you. And I'd like to know that as you give to us, you are with us in consciousness in this amazing and beautiful work that we do. So thank you. I've got just a couple announcements today. We are in the Christmas season, you might have noticed, and next week my talk is titled, Love is Christmas. When I was teaching YOU, I was a YOU sponsor back in the day at my first Unity Church. I asked the group of teenagers what Christmas meant to them and what they knew about it. And as they talked about it, they mentioned Joseph and Mary and the shepherds and the wise men and all the animals that were in the stable. And of course, they mentioned the baby Jesus. And as they talked about each character, what kind of came up for them was that, wasn't it interesting that all of these people and animals could come together on this very special day of Jesus' birth? And they especially noted that there were shepherds and kings there. Now, these are a couple of unlikely people to be together in the same room, because kings didn't typically hang out with shepherds. And what they said was so profound, was that here it is on Jesus' birth, and people are celebrating the being together in this diverse group, kind of reminding us how important it can be for us to share love amongst our many diverse population and populace on our planet, whether we're white or brown or rich or poor, whether we're nerdy or whether we're gay or straight or questioning, whether we're Democrat or Republican. What they came up with was that at our core, we are love. And this isn't that so much about what our teachings are about, embracing this love and the fullness of life. So this is what we'll talk about next week. And I've got a really amazing musician, Sarah Bareilles, is going to be singing her song, Love is Christmas. It's totally amazing and very beautiful. You will love it. And so please join us next week, and we'll talk about Love is Christmas. And the next thing I'd like to tell you about, you may not know, is that we're going to offer 4 45-minute Christmas Eve services on Thursday, December 24th. There will be 10 reserved seats at each service, and the service times are 4, 5:15, 6:30, and 7:45 p.m. And in order to attend these services, you'll need to make a reservation with Emily to do so, and you can do that by calling her at 808-268-8310, and only people with reservations will be admitted. Your health is our number one concern. So everyone who comes to our Christmas Eve services will be required to wear a mask that covers your nose and your mouth, and we will practice social distancing. And dress warm, because we're going to have the doors open and the windows open and the fans on, so we get to pretend like we're in a really cold climate. And we'll be joyful and have a great inspirational time together. We will not have live musicians on Christmas Eve. However, I have selected some really beautiful music for this night. And I'll give you some hints as time gets closer of who these magnificent musicians are that we're going to be able to observe on Christmas Eve. And when you get here on Christmas Eve, we're going to ask that you wait in your car, and a board member will come out and take your temperature and ask you if you've been exposed to anyone that's had coronavirus or been off the island or anything. So we're really trying to keep this safe. And we are asking a minimum donation or love offering of $20 for each person who attends our Christmas Eve services. However, no one will be turned away for lack of funds. Again, the times for our Christmas Eve are 4, 5:15, 6:30, and 7:45. And you can call Emily Goss at 808-268-8310 to make a reservation. And the reservations start today. As you know, we're beginning a new small group series in January titled A Complaint-Free World. And I talked about this last week. It's an incredible opportunity to really be mindful of what you're thinking and what you are saying. I highly encourage you to participate in this program. It'll be Thursday, January 7th at 7 o'clock will be our first Zoom meeting. And so order your book now, and so you'll have it in plenty of time for that January 7th meeting. And exciting news, we have changed the name of our small group program from Spirit Groups to Aloha Groups. So come and be a part of that. We're going to have an awesome time. So if you enjoy Unity Church of Maui's videos, you can always go to our YouTube site, and there are numerous videos there as well as some inspirational music. And I'd like to invite you also to join us on Wednesday for a meditation that I lead and daily word. And the link to that is in our newsletter and on our website. And let's see, I think that's about it for today. So as a way of bringing our service to a close today, why don't we pray together the prayer for protection, which begins, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. God bless you. I love you. I bless you. And I appreciate you. I behold the Christ in you. Aloha and mahalo.
Where I live, there are rain.